Hello and thank you for watching. I'm Kevin Green. I'm a registered psychotherapist in Vaughan, Ontario, and primarily the work I do is with teenagers and children. I just recorded a video, which hopefully you've watched, which talks about grades and how focusing on the actual number, the grade itself, can sometimes be detrimental and not really a good use of energy and can actually cause anxiety and prevent good grades. This video is kind of like the partner to that one. This is being recorded in August, I believe today's the 13th of 2021. The past year and a half, the school system has been, to a large extent, online. Some people have been online primarily. They've just chosen that, and there's lots of good reasons for that. There have also been people who have been chosen to be in person, and they have gone between in-person and online based on what the school system does, based on COVID, all of that stuff. What I wanted to talk about today was the mental health impact of online learning. And I apologize for my art. I'm not known for my art skills. I'll explain this picture to you a bit as we go through. If you're an adult, a parent watching this video, I want you to think about the challenge of working at home, forgetting for a minute about having kids at home. Think about the challenge of working at home. Now, for some jobs, it might be a good thing. If you have annoying colleagues, if there's somebody who always hangs out at your desk and gets in the way of you doing your work, then maybe working at home hasn't been too bad. Or maybe it wasn't too bad at first. Think about how your work might go depending on your job. You do some work by yourself, so it's independent, where you're just heads down, whether it's on a computer, whether it's using paper, whatever you do. And sometimes you have to have a meeting. And a lot of people use Zoom now, or something like Zoom. And as a worker, as an employee, as an adult, probably the interactions you're having on Zoom vary from time to time, day to day. It could be that you have to meet with people, so you call the meeting and you set the agenda. You're the one who says, we're going to talk about this, this, and this. Or maybe somebody else has said to you, maybe your boss has said, hey, you need to call a meeting and cover off these topics. But regardless, when you're at that meeting, you're the one running it. So that's the dynamic as you're talking to people online. Now there's other meetings where you are the participant. People have invited you to the meeting. It could be you're on a team, it could be it's your manager, it could be a customer, and you're there being responsive to them. There's also meetings where you might be on, which are training. So it could be a webinar where you have to do some mandatory training, career progression training, lots of different things. It could be a meeting where you are there as an observer and you're not really supposed to interact at all. Your job is to sit and take notes, be aware of what's happening, but kind of a fly on the wall. I've just described a bunch of different types of interactions that you're going to have to go through, and that can still be hard because it's online, right? You think about it, you're staring at your webcam, kind of like what I'm doing now as I'm recording this, and it can be good maybe at the beginning and stuff, but day after day, week after week, month after month, it gets tedious. And now that companies are opening up again, there are people who are really looking forward to getting back into the office so that even though they have people around them that might be annoying, it's still for some people better than just sitting at home. But again, the important part, and then I'm going to transition into what I'm talking about with students, is that as the employee, as the adult, probably a lot of the interactions you're having online vary. So that gives you a bit of a different way of doing things. So it's not the same thing day after day after day after day. Let's pretend now you're a student. And I'm just going to pick a grade. Kindergarten, grade 2. I'll pick a couple other grades. Grade 9, grade 12, university. I'm a bit less familiar with how university was done online. But all of these together, it's a student. So let's pretend you're the student. Bad drawing. You are sitting at your desk at home. Now, I'm making an assumption that the student here is actually at a desk. Maybe the student is sitting on their bed. Maybe they're on the floor. Who knows what they're doing and how they're doing it. And they're staring at a screen. So let's say it's Google Classroom. Let's say it's Zoom. Doesn't really matter. It's the video environment. It's an online environment. And if you look here, there's one camera turned on. Here's another camera turned on. Here's DK. Not sure who that is. Maybe it's Donkey Kong. Here's G, that's actually a U. Maybe that's Gus. Here's KG, so maybe that's me, Kevin Green. Here's a couple of question marks. We're really not sure who that is because they've changed the name of their profile. And you're the student, and this is what you see every day as you're trying to learn. You see it, I'll just pick some months out, and if I get this wrong, by the way, I don't remember every month that people were online versus not online, but hopefully the message still comes through. Let's say January, February, so January was, let's say, was not online. February, maybe your class partially was online, as maybe there was a COVID, somebody who tested positive for COVID in the class, so they had to go home for 2 weeks and then come back. But then, I think it was around March break-ish or April, everybody went back online to the end of the year. So this part was online. There's other people where, for a bunch of reasons, started in September online and just basically did the entire year online. So as a student, yes, there are breakout rooms, there's some group work that gets done, but it's hours and hours and hours, day after day, week after week, month after month, where what you're doing is staring at this. So as the parent, if you're watching this, think of how hard it might be for you to do your job online. And now imagine you're 5, or you're 10, or you're 12. It kind of doesn't really matter. When day after day, this is what you do, that becomes really, really hard. I'm an adult. I've gone to school probably too much. And recently, for professional development, I had to do an online course. It was pre-recorded. It was about a 6-hour recording, which I did over 2 days. I found it kind of hard to focus. And I'm pretty good at doing this type of stuff. And in the end, I got it done. And I was glad when it was over. That was 6.25 hours, I believe. That's not month after month after month for a kid in grade 3, a kid in grade 5. Maybe it's a kid with ADHD. Maybe it's a kid with a learning disability where there's a memory processing issue, and this just doesn't work. It leads to frustration. Maybe it's somebody who's not really a visual learner, right? So some people can learn by watching, so this isn't bad. But other people don't really learn that way. They learn by hearing more in a room with people. They learn by being able to talk to the teacher live. Now let's imagine you're the teacher, right? Teachers, I think if I was a teacher, I would have been really stressed by this as well, because this is what you see when you're trying to teach your students. You're trying to give your class the education that they need. And as a dedicated teacher, this is how you see your students. Normally in class, as you walk around, so if I was a teacher right now, there's a chair here, you can't see it on camera, maybe I can tell that this student is got their head down because they're upset or something. So I can come over and I can say, hey, what's wrong? You don't look very happy. And maybe it's because they're really struggling with a subject. Or maybe it's because at recess something happened. And as their teacher, now that I can actually see them, I can help them with that. Maybe because I'm in the classroom, that student would have come up to me and said, Mr. Green, I'm really not getting the lesson. Can you please give me a hand? And they probably could have done it maybe in a bit of a private way. They don't have to do it just in front of the whole class. What happens if you're now in this environment, and maybe it's hard to actually, because of the technology, to message the teacher? What if the system isn't working the way it's supposed to, and you can't do that? What if the teacher doesn't realize, because cameras are turned off, and even the ones that are turned on, it's not the same as being in the room. So this is how online education has worked. And for some people, it's been fine. It's been good enough. There are people who've done very well with it. And there's also lots and lots of students of all ages who have not. This ties into the other video that I mentioned around grades. When people have been in an environment where the learning itself is hard to do compared to what they're used to, and compared to how the system was originally designed, and compared to maybe unique challenges this individual has, and unique challenges that the technology offers, and having to go from Tuesday in class to Wednesday online because somebody's tested positive. This whole mishmash of things has led to an environment where the learning process has been interrupted for a lot of people. Now we're in August, we're looking at September going back to school. It's not my place to try to convince people to do one thing or the other, so I'm not going to attempt to do that. Everybody's going to make a decision for themselves or for their family, their children, about whether they want the online versus the in-person program. I'm happy to discuss that with you and give you different perspectives, but as a therapist, I don't try to convince people of anything, or very rarely anyways, because that doesn't really help. What I want to try to get people to understand is this is what the system and the students and teachers have been going through, and that has a big impact on mental health. Depression is basically based on thoughts and feelings about something that's happened in the past. And anxiety is a similar type thing, but about the future. And where a lot of anxiety for students have come from over the past year or so is not knowing what's happening next. The media talks about, and I'm looking in the past now, there was talk, earlier in the year, will classrooms go back online? And it was probably, I could be wrong, I'd have to go check newspapers and stuff, like archives, probably about a month or so where it was every day, will we go back online? Will we not go back online? Then I think it was around here, March, April, that we did go back online. Then it was the question, will the classrooms reopen again, right? And as we went into May, June, it was finally announced that classes will stay closed. During all this time, there's all this uncertainty. And when you're the kid, the 5-year-old in kindergarten up to the 17-year-old or 16-year-old in grade 12, this is your day in and out. On top of that is the anxiety. Some people have stress about grades. And, for some people it's real. They're about to graduate. Do they have the grade to get into the program they want? Even if they have the grade, will they have learned enough in order to do well in the program they want to get into? And I encourage you, I'll have the link at the end of this video for you to check out my other one on grades. But it's really important to understand that grades, the number itself, isn't always important. And if it's lower than you expected, this might be the reason, and it's a good reason, right? Doesn't mean you enjoy bad grades, but sometimes if you can understand why something's not so good, and kind of the reason makes sense, then it makes it easier to accept. I hope that this was helpful. I'm hoping that as time goes on, the online learning becomes more of a backup versus the primary offering, because this environment, for most people, for teachers, for students, for parents, is really, really hard. And as your kids have been going through this, I'm hoping this might help you understand it. Not that you don't, and I'm not patronizing anybody who's listening to this whatsoever. But sometimes we have to step back a bit. And for me, the aha moment was myself when I did my online course, thinking, wow, I'm used to doing online learning. And this was really hard for me. What if I was 8? How much harder would this have been? And if this is what I did every day? If you have any questions, please feel free to give me a call. My number is 416-613-1259, and you can email me at kevin@hhcw.ca. Please feel to subscribe to my channel. I'm going to try to add more content over the rest of the year. There's also a lot that I've done in the past that I hope would be helpful to you. And check out my website. You can find me at hhcw.ca. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a good rest of the day.